Before we get into the video, I would very much appreciate if y'all would click the thumbs up button and subscribe to the channel if you are new here. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Wildwood Sunbee Farms YouTube channel. My name is Grayson, and today I am going to be kicking off a brand new series where I'm going to be diving into different hive styles one by one to talk about where they came from, how they work, and where they fit into modern beekeeping. And first, we've got to start out with the hive that really made modern beekeeping possible, the Langstroth hive. If you are a beekeeper watching this video, chances are this is a hive that's sitting out in your backyard right now. It is the standard box design, stackable, removable frames, and pretty much everything in beekeeping today is built around it. But the story behind how this hive came to be is fascinating. It starts way back in the 1800s with a man named L.L. Langstroth, and his discovery completely changed how humans keep bees today. Before L.L. Langstroth came along, beekeeping wasn't what we'd call gentle or efficient. Most folks kept bees in skeps. Those are those straw baskets you see in old paintings, or in hollowed out logs, or rough wooden boxes. They were simple, but they had a big problem. You couldn't get into them without tearing everything apart. So if you wanted to go into the colony and get honey, you basically had to destroy the hive. You'd crush the combs, strain the honey, and the colony usually didn't survive the harvest. There wasn't really any way to inspect for disease, manage the queen, or even check on the bees themselves. But then in the early 1850s, a minister named L.L. Langstroth, Lorenzo Langstroth from Massachusetts, started to really watch the way the bees behave. He wasn't the first person to build a hive with movable combs. There were a few experiments in Europe, but he made an observation that nobody else quite put together the way he did. Langstroth noticed something strange. Bees always left a very specific amount of space between their combs, about 3/8 of an inch. If the gap was smaller than that, they'd glue it shut with propolis. If it was wider, they'd fill it in with comb. But when it was right around that 3/8 inch, they left it open as a little hallway. He realized this sweet spot wasn't random. It was bee space, as everybody knows it today. And once he understood that, he built a hive that respected that space. He designed a box that held movable frames, each separated by just enough room for the bees to pass through, but not enough to fill in with comb. It sounds simple, but that discovery changed everything. In 1852, he patented the design, and the Langstroth hive was born. So for the first time, beekeepers could open a hive, lift out a frame, inspect the brood, harvest honey, and put it all back together without destroying the colony. It gave us true hive management. Langstroth himself wrote a book called The Hive and the Honeybee, which became one of the most influential texts in beekeeping history. What's wild is that you can still buy that book today. It's been revised and reprinted countless times since the 1850s. Langstroth's idea caught on slowly at first, but not everyone saw the potential right away. But as the word spread, more and more beekeepers began to adopt his design, or at least pieces of it. Other inventors built on what he started. In the 1860s and 70s, J. Moring developed the idea of using wax foundation. That made it easier for the bees to build combs straight and gives them a head start. Then in 1865, another beekeeper invented the honey extractor, a device that lets beekeepers spin the honey out of combs without destroying them. Combine that with Langstroth's movable frames, and now you can harvest honey, return the combs, and let the bees refill them. By the late 1800s, the Langstroth hive wasn't just a clever invention. It had become the standard around much of North America and parts of Europe. Commercial beekeeping today was born from that design. As we moved into the 20th century, the Langstroth hive evolved into the form we all recognize today. Rectangular box that stack vertically. Manufacturers standardized equipment. You started to see deep brood boxes, medium and shallow supers, all using the same width and length so that frames could move between boxes. Beekeepers could interchange parts from different suppliers, and that made managing multiple colonies, even hundreds of them, much easier. During this time, the beekeeping industry took off. Langstroth design was perfect for large-scale operations. Migratory pollination became possible because hives could be stacked on trucks and moved across the country. The design was tough and easy to repair. Beekeeping magazines, supply catalogs, and teaching materials all revolved around the Langstroth system. If you were a beekeeper in 1920 or 1950, you used the Langstroth. It wasn't just in the US either. The design spread globally across Europe, Australia, and Africa. Through wars, economic ups and downs, and changes in agriculture, that basic hive box held its place. The 1900s also brought improvements in materials, better lumber, wired foundation, and new tools like the smoker, hive tool, and the bee brush. Everything revolved around those same rectangular boxes Langstroth had sketched out 100 years earlier. So as the beekeeping industry grew, so did the challenges. The spread of diseases and pests such as foul brood, tracheal mites, and later the infamous varroa mite. These challenges pushed beekeepers to inspect hives more often and manage them more carefully. The Langstroth hive made that possible. You could pull frames, look for disease, monitor brood patterns, and check for mites in ways you simply couldn't with a fixed comb hive. But some beekeepers began to wonder if this new modern way of keeping bees taken us too far away from natural beekeeping. That's when we started to see alternative hives appear, such as the top bar hive, the woolly hive, and the Layens hive, all designed to simplify beekeeping or make it more bee-centric. But even those designs owe something to Langstroth's original idea: movable, inspectable combs that respect bee space. No matter what hive you pick today, almost all of them trace their DNA back to Langstroth's discovery. Fast forward to today and you'll find Langstroth hives everywhere, from backyard hobbyists to massive commercial beekeepers. They're the standard for commercial honey production, almond pollination, and research. Every tool and accessory you can think of, from frames and foundations to feeders and queen excluders, is made to fit the Langstroth system. And what's amazing is how little the core design has changed. Sure, we have plastic frames now, telescoping covers, screen bottom boards, and fancy insulated boxes, but if you show L.L. Langstroth a modern hive, he'd recognize it instantly. The dimensions, the spacing, even the way frames hang inside, it's all his work. So when you walk out to your apiary and pop the lid on your hive, think about what you're really looking at. You're not just seeing a box of bees, you're seeing a living connection to a discovery made in the 1850s that still shapes everything we do today. So let's talk a little bit about the hive parts, a beginner's guide to the Langstroth hive. Let's start right at the ground level, the hive stand. Technically, it's not part of the hive itself, but it's just as important. The hive stand lifts the whole hive up off the ground. That might not sound like a big deal, but it makes a huge difference. Raising the hive helps keep the bottom dry when it rains, keeps ants and beetles from walking right in, and gives you a little back relief when you're working your hives. Some folks build fancy metal stands, some use cinder blocks, and others just set their hives on treated 4x4s. It doesn't really matter what it's made of as long as it's stable, level, and off the ground. Sitting right on that stand is your bottom board. Think of it as the hive's front porch and floor all in one. It's where the bees enter and exit the hive. There are two main types, solid and screened. A solid bottom board is exactly what it sounds like, a flat wooden base. It helps retain heat in the winter and keeps drafts out. A screened bottom board, on the other hand, has a mesh center that allows ventilation and can help control mites. When mites fall off bees, they drop right through that screen and out of the hive. Most beekeepers have strong opinions one way or the other, but both work. It often depends on your climate. The entrance of the hive is right here too. Just a gap at the front of the bottom board where the bees come and go. You can adjust this opening with a reducer, a small wooden piece that limits traffic in and out. It helps smaller colonies defend against robbing and pests. Next up are your brood boxes, sometimes called deep boxes. These are the big, heavy boxes at the bottom of your stack, the core of the colony. This is where the queen lives, where eggs are laid, and where brood develops. Each box holds frames, as we talked about earlier, usually 10, sometimes 8 if you're using 8-frame equipment. Inside those frames, the bees build comb where they raise brood and store pollen and honey. Most backyard beekeepers run either 1 or 2 deep boxes for the brood area. A single deep might be enough in warmer climates, but 2 deeps give the colony more room to expand and store food for winter. When you're inspecting your colony, you'll be pulling frames from here to check on brood patterns, see how the queen's doing, and monitor for mites and diseases. Every box, whether it's for brood or honey, holds a set of rectangular wooden frames. These are removable, and that's what makes the Langstroth hive so special. Frames come in different depths depending on the box they go in. Deep frames are for brood boxes, medium frames are for honey supers, and shallow frames are for lighter honey boxes. Inside the frame, you might have foundation. That's a sheet of wax or plastic stamped with hexagon patterns to guide the bees. Some beekeepers use foundationless frames and let the bees build natural comb, while others use wired foundation for extra strength when spinning out honey. The next part of the Langstroth hive is optimal, and not every beekeeper uses one, the queen excluder. It's a metal or plastic grid that sits right on top of your brood boxes. The openings are just big enough for worker bees to pass through, but too small for the queen. Why use it? Because it keeps the queen down in the brood area and prevents her from coming up into the supers and laying eggs in your honey supers. That's why when you pull honey, it's clean, no brood mixed in. Above your brood boxes and your queen excluder, if you choose to use one, you'll usually add honey supers. These are smaller boxes, medium or shallows, that the bees use to store surplus honey. They're lighter, easier to lift, and designed to be harvested. When nectar flow is on, you'll see bees packing these frames with nectar and capping them with wax as they dehydrate into honey. Once these frames are capped, that's your honey harvest waiting to happen. Many beekeepers stack multiple supers during heavy flow periods, adding new boxes as the bees fill the ones below. It's a simple but great system. The bees build up, you take the honey from the top, and you leave the bottom boxes for them. Sitting right above the top super is your inner cover. This little piece often gets overlooked, but it serves a few important purposes. First off, it provides a barrier between the top cover and the bees, helping with insulation and ventilation. It also prevents the bees from gluing your outer cover down with propolis. Some inner covers have a small notch for an upper entrance or for extra airflow. Other inner covers have a central hole you can use for feeding with a mason jar. Finally, we reach the top, the outer cover, sometimes called the telescoping cover. This is the hive's roof. It protects everything underneath from sun, rain, and wind. Telescoping covers are designed to overhang the sides slightly, and most top covers have a sheet of metal on top for weatherproofing. Some folks use a migratory cover instead. This type of cover is a flat, simple lid that doesn't overhang. These are common in commercial operations where hives are packed tightly on pallets. Either way, the cover is the hive's main defense against the elements. So when you stack everything in order, a typical Langstroth hive might look like this. A hive stand on the ground, a bottom board, 1 or 2 brood boxes, a queen excluder, which is optimal, 1 or more honey supers, a inner cover, and a outer cover. And in the next video of the series, we'll look at another fascinating design that took a completely different approach, the top bar hive, a hive that aims to let bees do things their own way. Thank y'all for watching the video. I very much appreciate it. Could not do this without you. I would appreciate if you'd go ahead and click that thumbs up button. That really does help out the video to get out to more viewers, and hopefully get out to more viewers, maybe some new beginners, even intermediate, advanced beekeepers, to try to get the word of these different topics out there. This was a great topic to talk about, and this is going to be a new series I will be doing about each hive style. I will be talking about the history, as I did today, and where that hive is in today's era. Thank you all so much for watching, and everybody have a blessed day.